Hello, Jacksonites. Christ, how long has it been since I've talked about this show last? My Lost Tapes Season 1 review was posted December 1st, 2017. My Lost Tapes Season 2 review was posted... So when the dude turns around, February 1st, 2019. And now it is September 6th, 2020. Why has it taken me 3 years to review one of my favorite shows in its entirety? Who knows, and who cares? At least better late than never. Yeah, welcome to my third and final review of the third and final season of one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Talked about this in my top 20 favorite TV shows video of the found footage anthology supernatural killer animal anthology series, Lost Tapes. Oh, and then, of course, I must open with the opening narration. There are creatures science refuses to recognize. But new technology makes us question what is real. Enter a realm where fact meets fiction, science meets legend, where nightmares come to life. Do you believe? Lost Tapes. Zombies. Being the opening episode of Season 3. Though that's not the exact opening, but kind of is one of my problems with the film, which I just now realized I haven't even listed those out. So give me one moment. Okay. Hang on one second. Okay. Oh, who's texting me? Alrighty, so I do greatly apologize for why it's taken me so long to review Lost Tapes. And also, for those of you who are huge fans of my Lost Tapes videos, I also greatly apologize. Because for some reason, both of my Lost Tapes videos have an insane amount of views, specifically Season 1. My Season 1 review has almost 800 views, and my Season 2 review has almost 400. So I guess there are quite a few Lost Tapes fans out there, which is kind of understandable because this is kind of one of those cult classic type shows that has a very small but very dedicated fan base, which is cool. But I do really apologize. I don't really have any reason why it's taken me this long to review it. I guess there's just things that you do that you mean to finish, but you just don't. If you guys haven't noticed, I kind of have been trying to finish up a lot of the shows and franchises that I've just kind of left in limbo for the last couple of years. This is, I think, the last one of those. So look forward to some new content coming after the review of season 3. But not quite there yet. I still have this to talk about. So season 3 of Lost Tapes is kind of a mixed opinion when it comes to Lost Tapes fans. I've seen some people that say it's their favorite, and I've seen some people that say it's their least favorite. Now, I can understand for both. And I remember back in my season 2 review, I think it was, that I said season 3 is my favorite season of the whole series. While I'm not necessarily taking back that statement, I do have to kind of look at that as in a bit of a different light, because having rewatched season 3, now when comparing it to season 1 and season 2, Lost Tapes season 3 kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Due to the fact that season 3 was when the filmmakers strayed far from. Hang on. Oh, by the way, let me finish up my soda. Hang on. All right. So the filmmakers with season 3 of Lost Tapes strayed far away from making this an exclusively animal type show, and they just made it into a horror show, which isn't bad per se, but that's the main reason why I've seen a lot of people say season 3 is their least favorite, is because it doesn't feel like an Animal Planet show anymore. It just feels like a generic found footage horror anthology show. Not that there's really many out there, but it just felt more generic, and it felt more like it was blending in with the crowd, which I can kind of agree with this, and I'll get back into that when I get to my cons with this season. But there's a lot of elements in season 3 that make it feel very different in tone, style, and structure from the first 2 seasons. Season 1 and season 2 are very, very, very consistent. Really, the only difference between the two is a shorter episode length in season 2 and a bigger budget, showing a bit more of the monsters. But that's it. Seasons 1 and 2 feel very similar. Season 3 feels like a horse of a different color. Now, for me and my personal taste, I don't particularly mind it, because a few of my favorite episodes are in season 3. Actually, 5 of my favorite episodes of Lost Tapes are in season 3. So there are a lot of episodes. There's just a lot that I do like about season 3. And just in general, season 3 of Lost Tapes is when they really went full bore with the horror and scares and making it into an actual scary show. There was a couple episodes in the first 2 seasons of Lost Tapes that didn't really feel all that scary. Here, they just went full go with the horror, and which, of course, I do like. Hang on. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Anyway, so season 3 of Lost Tapes, it just in the overall fan base, I've seen it have mixed reviews. I think I'm gonna slightly go back on what I just said. I don't think season 3 is my favorite of the series. I just think I like all 3 seasons equally for different reasons. Um, and if you were to ask me if you're just to watch a random season, which would you pick? I don't really know because there's things about all 3 seasons that I do like that would make me want to pick. Like season 1 has 14 episodes and it has the biggest nostalgia and the biggest um, cult factor to it. Season 2 in overall quality is the best objectively. And then if you want to be entertained and thrilled and scared, there's season 3 to go to. So that's why I really do think Lost Tapes is one of the most underrated shows of all time, because for fans of horror and especially for fans of anthology, there's really something here for everybody. If you're a fan of suspenseful found footage stuff, this movie's got you covered. If you're a fan of low budget found footage stuff, this show's got you covered. If you're just a fan of lost tapes, or if you're just a fan of found footage in any form that it's in, this show's got you covered. But not just with the lack of realism. Season 3 of Lost Tapes kind of breaks the anthology mold a little bit by having an element that wasn't seen before in the first 2 seasons. The season does not present facts or interviews regarding the creature in the prologue of the episode. It instead introduces the episode's creature attacking random victims, and the season also introduces a recurring element, being Agents Elise Mooney and Agent Noel Connor of the Enigma Corporation, being a private security firm. These 3 show up in 3 episodes of this or these 2 show up in 3 episodes of this season. Zombies, Strigoi Vampire, and Q the Serpent God. And yes, I said zombies. There's literally an episode where zombies are shown. This definitely does go into the lack of realism when it comes to the show, but I'll explain that when I get to the cons. But that being said, overall, still, I love season 3 of Lost Tapes. And like I said, there are elements of all 3 seasons that I like that make me love this show equally over the course of its 3 seasons. And it is a damn shame that this show got canceled, because like I said in my season 2 review, I would have much rather preferred they give us at least a 4th and final season, because I'm sure there's a few more cryptids out there. Hang on one second. I'm actually going to look this up. I wish they could have give us a 4th and final season to wrap up the show and give us a lot of famous, like we never got a Loch Ness Monster episode. So then I would have wanted them to include more famous cryptids, but also a few more obscure ones. Hang on. Hang on. Okay. I guess I was gullible. No, this doesn't really give me an answer. So, um, I don't really know why the show was canceled. It could have been just because of a bad critical reception, because I have seen a lot of reviews of specifically season 3 that say the show is just garbage. Um, Maybe it's just a lack of budget, or maybe it was just the ratings weren't there, or Animal Planet just decided to axe it because they wanted to do different stuff. I don't really know, and we probably never will really know why the show got canceled, but it's still a shame. I could have easily been happy with 4 seasons of the show instead of 3, but what can you do? At least we do have the show for what it is. Or like Justin says, probably due to low ratings. I don't really know. So with all that being said, let's get into the plots of the episodes of Lost Tapes. Now, once again, season 3, like with season 2, has only 10 episodes. And the plots for each episode are extremely detailed. So I'll try to go through these as quick as I can. But I mean, each one of these episodes could be a 90-minute film. But still, I'll try to be kind of quick. Episode 1 is Zombies. In winter of 2010, during Mardi Gras in New Orleans, Josephine Ledoux is murdered by Malcolm Clement, a man who she had been housing in one of New Orleans' Haitian communities. And because of unique and strange circumstances surrounding this murder, the New Orleans Police Department hires the Enigma Corporation, which is a private security firm, to find and arrest Clement. Now, during their briefing, Agent Noel Connor reveals that Clement apparently died 8 years ago in his home country of Haiti. Accompanied by tactical specialist Elise Mooney and rookie agent Tanner Noble, he goes to the boarding house where they believe Ledoux's other boarders may be harboring him, which is a building that has been condemned since Hurricane Katrina. They enter the house but find nothing other than a complete mess. And while searching this house, Mooney hears growls coming from the upper level of the house and demands that anyone who is hiding show themselves and surrender. They enter a room where they discover a voodoo shrine to Ledoux, along with tetrodotoxin, which is a powerful and lethal neurotoxin that's also known as zombie powder, which stuns the brain into a death-like trance and just makes you kind of go, yeah. Downstairs, however, Connor discovers dismembered human remains and notifies the other agents that they may need to use deadly force. A motion sensor that Tanner is carrying with him suddenly picks up movement just outside the building, and he leaves to investigate it while Connor moves upstairs. Mooney continues investigating the shrine. She then suddenly sees a man who is acting strangely and is approaching her, brandishing a wooden board like a club. Mooney kicks him out into the hall right as Connor arrives, and he attacks the man as well, causing him to fall from the second floor to his apparent death. However, while Tanner is securing the perimeter, he is suddenly approached and attacked by a girl who is acting similarly to the man who attacked Mooney. Connor tells him to apprehend her and to be extremely careful over the radio, but she suddenly attacks and bites him, and their struggle moves off screen. Connor, which is disturbed by the feeling of the boarding house, suggests they simply find Clement and leave. When as they begin to leave, they are suddenly attacked by the man before who is still alive, quote unquote. Connor manages to wrestle him to the ground and hold him down, and they question how the man was able to recover from a seemingly fatal fall. Outside, it is revealed that Tanner is still alive and well, as he has apprehended the girl, who he takes the Enigma Corporation's van. And during a brief conversation over the radio, Connor tells Tanner to keep the engine running in case they need to escape quickly and be prepared to call for backup. Suddenly, the man Connor has subdued wakes up and begins snarling as he tries to attack Connor and refuses to give up even after he is tased. Clement suddenly approaches Mooney from behind and he refuses to stop even after Mooney shoots him rifle style with an MP5, but whatever. The noise of the struggle has attracted the attention of the other residents of the boarding house, who are all zombies. Connor and Mooney barricade themselves in the shrine room and restrain Clement while trying to hail Tanner on the radio, who, unbeknownst to them, has passed out and is being eaten by the girl in the van. Mooney suggests simply leaving Clement behind and torching the building in order to keep whatever is causing the residents to act strangely from spreading. However, Connor insists that they do the job they were hired to do as the other residents try to break into the room. Suddenly, the girl that Tanner arrested returns through the balcony window, somehow. But Mooney and Connor shoot and subdue her as they escape through the window, tossing Clement to the ground below. And even after such a fall, Clement is still active and is growling at them. They run back towards the van, only to see that the other residents have caught up to them, and as they approach the van, they see Tanner emerge. However, he too is acting strangely, and they suddenly attack him. Early in the morning, following the events surrounding Clement's arrest, the boarding house is demolished, and it is not known if the residents were inside when it was destroyed or if they are roaming the streets of New Orleans. A statement was made that the demolition had been ordered long ago and that a full report would be released, but of course, this never happened. Tanner was given a quiet funeral in his hometown of Laredo, Texas. See, I got you, Trev. With Connor and Mooney in attendance. This being the first episode, this could easily be a movie, in my opinion, but whatever. Episode 2 is Kraken. In fall of 2006, 2 oil rig workers are attacked by an unknown creature, and their bodies are then never found. Later in spring 2006, documentarian James Werner follows a treasure hunter named Derek Barrow and his crew of 3 when he goes to recover the wreck of a Finnish ship supposedly loaded with treasure in the Baltic Sea. On their way to the site of the wreck, their boat hits something, but it does not damage the ship. And once they reach the wreck, Brad makes a dive to try to find the treasure, intending to do it in just one dive. However, the center of the ship, when he approaches it, appears to be crushed like a beer can, but he dismisses water pressure because the depth is too low for that. Then he sees something drifting in the distance, which he cannot identify due to the murky water, but he is then suddenly attacked by a mostly unseen creature. Radio contact with him is lost, and while the crew goes to the deck to see if he will resurface, the underwater camera captures what appears to be an enormous squid mantle. After hours of there being no sign of him, Sasha decides to go down and try to rescue him, and she discovers Brad's body far below, and she too is suddenly attacked. Captain Barrow and Werner try to locate her by sight, seeing a tentacle slap the window, but instead find Ron dead, covered in a strange ink and having his ribcage crushed. The two see a light in the distance, and Barrow takes out a rifle, saying the light is not a boat, while the glowing creature, giving an outline of an enormous squid, heads under the boat. Sasha surfaces, but is then pulled back into the water by a giant tentacle and is killed. The creature whacks Barrow with one of its tentacles and later grabs him with another after ramming the boat again, and then suddenly emerges behind Werner, who turns and captures the gigantic eye of the creature on camera right before it attacks and kills him. Following morning, a ferry heading to the oil rig discovered floating debris from the destroyed boat, and Captain Barrow found clinging to a small raft. However, he has refused to speak of the incident and has vowed never to return to the sea again. The bodies of James Werner and Barrow's crew were never recovered. Episode 3 is Strigoi Vampire. In summer of 2010, In Silver Rock, New Mexico, the Enigma Corporation is hired to investigate the mysterious deaths of workers at an oil outpost. Noel and Elise are accompanied by doctors Naomi Robeson and Selden Fisher, wearing hazmat suits in case of a gas leak or some kind of airborne virus. They find that all the workers died very suddenly, with fresh blood still being, or with fresh food still being on the tables and the phone in the office still having a dial tone. They find a dead man still seated in his office in one of the buildings, and Fisher takes a blood sample and finds that the man has been drained of a significant portion of his blood. They suddenly hear shuffling above them, and as the ceiling falls down, wrecking Mooney's hazmat suit in the process, they find nothing, except for a rat. When nothing happens to her, they conclude that whatever killed the workers is not airborne, and everyone but Fisher takes their helmets off. They discover more bodies in the same state as the man in the office, and Mooney notes that one of the dead workers is holding what appears to be a wooden board, ending in a sharpened point as though it were some kind of rudimentary weapon. A black German shepherd suddenly appears, and a suspicious Mooney shoots it with a tranq dart, but it flees into a container, and as they go in there, a man suddenly jumps out, claiming to be a worker named Clint Weber, who alone somehow survived what he described as an enormous orange sandstorm. While Robeson and Fisher conduct a medical exam, Connor and Mooney go to the office to look up Weber, and they discover that the man who claims to be Weber is not actually him. And they proceed to call for backup. As the doctors continue, Fisher pulls a tranq dart identical to the one that was shot at the dog out of Weber's mouth, and Weber suddenly acquires a demonic grin and huge fangs and kills Fisher and Robeson. Mooney receives word from headquarters they will not be receiving backup because of a quarantine that had been placed over the area, and they see someone who appears to be Fisher approaching. But when he ignores their warnings to not come any closer, they shoot at him, but he vanishes into thin air. Connor investigates a growling sound behind them while Mooney goes to find the dead doctors. The dog from before appears, barking at her aggressively, while Noel appears from behind it, claiming that it is not what it appears to be. Mooney flees, finding a truck, and she attempts to drive away when Weber suddenly pops up from the back seat with the same demonic grin as before and lunges at her. Mooney crashes the truck but somehow survives, while Connor escaped with only minor injuries. The deaths of the workers and the doctors were officially attributed to a gas leak, and the company ceased operations in North America. Animal hairs and saliva samples were confiscated by the FBI, and no lab results were released to the public. Because of course not. Yeah, it sounds like Azora. Episode 4 is Poltergeist. In summer 2009, in Lakeview, Colorado, Megan Golden is talking with her friends on her laptop when her younger brother Troy comes in and says to her that he is making a video and asks her if she wants to say anything. She sarcastically agrees, but then turns annoyed, telling Troy to leave her alone and to leave her room. They soon get in an argument when a box off her bookshelf goes flying and lands on her bed. Then her entire bookshelf falls on her when Troy angrily responds to his sister's comment about him being a freak. After this incident, the parents Mark and Jen Golden hire a paranormal investigation team consisting of Dr. Jeremy Reinhold, Christy Johns, who is a paraplegic, and Bill Schatz Cooper, who is the tech guy, to help the family. The team filmed the account for their TV show, Paranormal Encounters. Not a real TV show, by the way. And while testing to see if Troy could move a pen without touching it, he told him that he can't do it, but then the pen suddenly moves. That night, Troy suddenly wakes up screaming after objects in his room move on their own, and a stuffed panda in his arms is replaced by a butcher knife of unknown origin. After moving the Goldens to see Jed's parents' house, where they have moved Megan after the bookshelf incident, the team then begin their investigation. They enter Troy's room, where the paranormal activity seems to be strongest. The closet door shuts behind Shots, which knocks him into a wall and reveals a box. They find newspapers inside that tell them of a man named Charles Weatherly, who lived in the house 20 years prior, and the haunting in the house, or no. The newspapers state that Charles brutally murdered his wife and kids with a butcher's knife and then killed himself. They conclude that Charles' ghost is haunting the house as a poltergeist, and they become determined to get rid of him. They hear ghostly utterances of leave, and Jerry sees something in the window. When he investigates, he sees an image of himself holding a knife through the window, however, it vanishes. Christy suddenly gets thrown against the wall and begins convulsing, and the lights in the house go out and is now in night vision mode. When Jeremy and Shots try to help her, a sinister sounding voice says leave through her, and she soon dies. While Jeremy refuses to let the poltergeist win, Shots tries to leave, but then sees a message written in blood on a mirror saying too late. Seconds later, he is killed, and Jeremy concedes victory to the ghost and tries to leave, but the door keeps locking himself as he tries to get out, and he suddenly hears the voice of Troy calling for help in the bedroom. Jeremy warily walks upstairs and enters the bedroom to find it empty. Then the closet door opens, and he turns around to see the apparent ghost of Charles Weatherly, which can only be seen by him in the camera that he is holding. The murderous young husband and father's ghost, who is covered in blood and holding the weapon in question, a knife, then attacks and kills Jeremy by stabbing him to death. The same fate that ended up with Charles' family. After the investigators' bodies were discovered, their deaths were officially attributed to cardiac arrest. The episode of their series had never aired, and shortly after, the Goldens sold their home. Colorado real estate law did not require the disclosure of any of the activity which had occurred, which is actually illegal, but whatever. Episode 5 is Devil Monkey. I like this episode. In spring of 2009, a reporter from West Virginia named Stacy Foster accompanied ATF agents, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, Ollie Moye and Mark West, as well as a law enforcement officer, Ernest Tybee, as they venture into the Appalachian forest to bust an illegal moonshining operation. Moonshining essentially being homemade alcohol. Tybee and the agents have been tracking the moonshiners for some time and hope to catch them red-handed and end their illegal business. With it becoming dark, they enter the forest and come across a wooden sign with the words "Keep Out." However, they see claw marks on the sign, which Tybee cannot identify. They then hear a loud rustling sound in the trees, but assume it to be the moonshiners trying to scare them off. Shortly afterwards, one of the agents discovers a tripwire connected to a rudimentary alarm system, which they carefully step over. Suddenly, they hear strange sounds as the alarm is suddenly triggered by an unseen creature. When they return to check on what happened, they discover a footprint in the dirt that Tybee does not recognize as belonging to a local animal. They discover another tripwire, this one connected to a booby trap in the form of a crossbow set to fire when the wire is disturbed. They hear more rustling, and suddenly they discover a teenager named Matt Jones, who, along with his friend Owen, was attacked earlier that day, emerged from the darkness bloodied and terrified. He claims that monsters are following him and warns that they must leave immediately or be killed. But the agents cannot let him compromise their mission. Ignoring Matt's pleadings, they continue into the dark forest until they finally come upon the moonshiners' camp. Moye and West break off to investigate the far side of the camp. They discover the same claw marks and fresh blood on a barrel, and as they continue, they find that the camp has been totally trashed and there is no sign of moonshiners. Moye hears more sounds from the forest, and West suddenly discovers the mauled corpse of one of the moonshiners and tells Moye to come to him. West is suddenly attacked by an unseen creature, which disappears as suddenly as it appears. They hear more screeching and leave to regroup with Tybee and Foster, who have begun to investigate the distillery where the moonshiners have been brewing their product. And inside, they discover dismembered body parts of Owen and hear the sound of scraping claws on the outside of the still. Moya and West, meanwhile, are attacked and killed by mostly unseen creatures. Tybee and Foster hear growling coming from behind them, and Tybee demands that whoever is hiding there come out. And suddenly, what appears to be a large, tailless monkey emerges from behind the board in full view of their cameras, and Tybee tells Foster to run as it attacks them. Foster yells for him in desperation, but everything suddenly becomes quiet. Seconds later, the monkey emerges from the still screeching as it chases her. Foster runs to a fence, but it is locked, and in a last-ditch effort to escape, she tries crawling under the fence. However, the monkey catches up to her and kills her. Matt escapes from the forest, telling authorities about the creatures. A search of the area was performed, and the bodies of all other people who entered the forest were recovered, but were so badly mutilated that they could only be identified through DNA and dental records. A team of zoological experts was assembled to identify what perpetrated the attacks, and though it was obvious that the creatures were mammals, it is not known what kind. Have you seen the movie Poltergeist from 1982? Yes, I have. The allegedly directed by Tobe Hooper film Poltergeist, but I actually think it was directed by Steven Spielberg. It has a big Steven Spielberg vibe. The next episode, episode 6, is Yeti. I love this episode. In 2005, renowned billionaire explorer Mark Hordstrom went missing while climbing Mount Everest. 3 years later, in 2008, his body was discovered along with another huge discovery. Two journalists, Jared Slate and Alex Turner, bribed Charlie Newhouse, who was a longshoreman working on the cargo ship Inventus that was rumored to be carrying Hordstrom's remains and the discovery. In order to break the story a day early, Newhouse takes them aboard and they sneak into the inner workings of the ship. Turner asks Newhouse what he knows about the discovery, but says he knows nothing more than they do, and has in fact agreed to get them aboard because his employers have recently let him go. Newhouse takes them into a cold storage area where the crates containing Hordstrom and the discovery are being kept. Slate sees some dead rats on the floor, and Newhouse says that the ship's staff have been putting out poisons to deal with the pest problem. However, Turner notes that the rats look more like they've been torn apart. They then hear loud banging sounds, but assume that is machinery shifting. They find a crate, and Slate opens it with a crowbar, expecting to find Nordstrom's body inside. However, it is instead filled with fruit, and then the mauled corpse of one of Newhouse's co-workers falls down from the ceiling. While wondering whether they should call the police, Slade notices a crate behind them labeled biological specimen, which they conclude is the major discovery. And as they examine the crate, they see that it has been forcibly opened from the inside, and they discover white fur caught on some of the splinters. They hear more clanking, and Newhouse explains that no one else was instructed to enter this part of the ship, so the sounds must be being made by some kind of creature. Newhouse refuses to continue on and find the creature and tries to convince the journalist to leave with him. However, Slate tries to convince Turner to come along, but she insists that they have to get a shot at the creature before they do. Newhouse makes for the exit, but the door is jammed. As his flashlight begins to go out, the hulking form of a mostly unseen and very hairy and large animal suddenly comes into the view of a security camera and attacks him as everything goes dark. Hearing him screaming, Slate panics and runs, but slips in a large puddle of fresh blood on the floor, and they see a huge bloody footprint. Turner again insists that they capture the creature on film, or else they'll be accused of staging the scene. They follow more footprints where the creature is apparently hiding, and begin to hear low growling sounds. Slade picks up a hammer, and the creature emerges in full view of the camera for a very brief moment. Now terrified, they flee, but Turner bangs her knee against a vise, and as Slade tries to help her, the Yeti comes out and tries to attack her. Slade manages to hit it, and they escape, thinking that they've scared him off, but it emerges from behind some boxes, roaring loudly. They hide behind a metal storage container where they can see the door, and as they prepare to run, Newhouse's severed arm suddenly falls down from above, its hand still gripping the flashlight, and they discover the rest of him immediately afterward. They reach the door and get out of the cold storage area and thinking they're safe, but suddenly see the Yeti is still following them. They run up towards the main deck with the creature in hot pursuit, and they finally reach a door and go onto the deck, but it is locked. A security guard finds them, and he tries to get them out, but he does not have the key to the door. He runs off, though, when he sees the Yeti approaching them, and obscured by the darkness, Slade and Turner tried to break the door down until it finally attacks and kills them. The bodies of Newhouse, Slate, and Turner were never recovered, and though their video evidence would suggest otherwise, their deaths were officially attributed to drowning. The press conference awaiting the arrival of Horstrom's body and the creature were abruptly canceled, and the Adventus was diverted to Plum Island, a government-controlled island notorious for biological experiments and research. Is that true? Oh, yes, it is, kind of. Episode 7 is Wendigo, American Cannibal. This is a true found footage style episode, meaning the episode begins with recovered footage of 4 campers that went camping, but hang on. They got lost and ran out of food, and one of them decided to cannibalize one of his friends and transformed into the infamous Canadian legend of the Wendigo, which is a Canadian spirit/monster that is constantly hungry for human flesh. And anybody who is bitten by a Wendigo will become a Wendigo themselves. And the episode ends with a mountain rescue team trying to find them, but they end up getting killed off one by one by the Wendigo. Episode 8 is the final appearance of the Enigma Corporation, being Q, the Serpent God. The Enigma Corporation is hired to investigate a bunch of ritualistic murders in Mexico City, I believe. And they discovered that it is actually a cult surrounding the infamous Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, the Serpent God. Episode 9 is another werewolf episode, being the Beast of Bray Road. 2 reporters are investigating a militia group led by a man named Brian Kavanaugh, and they're come under attack by what they believe to be federal agents, when it is in fact the Beast of Bray Road, aka just a werewolf. And the final episode of the entire series is one of my least favorite of the entire series. Reptilian, where a task force is assembled to investigate the disappearances of a bunch of people that were all attributed to these underground raves, and they come across what is believed to be a species of half human, half reptile reptilians, or reptoids as they're called. This is just a garbage episode, in my opinion. And it's another episode where everybody dies. So how about all these plots? Well, like I said, each one of these episodes can be expanded upon into their own films. Each one of these episodes can be expanded into its own film, which I do like. And the Poltergeist episode pretty much is like the Poltergeist movie, at least in terms of structure. And a couple of these episodes are so good, they could easily make some of the greatest movies of all time, in my opinion. Like Q the Serpent God, the Yeti episode, and the Zombies episode especially are just utterly spectacular. So with all that being said, let's get into the pros and cons of Season 3 of Lost Tapes. Pro number 1 is the repertoire of monsters. There's only one that I don't really care for, and that is, hang on. I don't like Reptilian. Don't care for Poltergeist. And actually, yeah, the only 2 episodes I don't like is Reptilian and Poltergeist. Reptilian because it's a great concept, but it's so piss poorly executed. And Poltergeist just because it's a good episode, but it's just kind of generic. It doesn't really fit in with the theme of Lost Tapes, in my opinion. I mean, this is an Animal Planet show. That you should have saved that for the Travel Channel or some shit. But whatever. But I love the repertoire of monsters. You have zombies, vampires, werewolves, Bigfoots, sea monsters. It's a great variety of different monsters. So it's really cool. And I think, except for Reptilian and Poltergeist, all of them are executed very well, in my opinion. Pro number 2 is the acting. Overall in this season is pretty good. It's still low budget B movie level acting, but for what it is, it's not bad. It's not cringy like in season 2 or a few moments in season 1. It's just adequate acting for the type of material that these actors are working with. Nobody really gives an unintentionally bad performance. There's a couple actors here or there that are kind of hammy, like these side characters, like Matt and his friend in Devil Monkey are extremely over the top and annoying. That's just because they're teenagers, so that kind of makes sense. But yeah, overall the acting for season 3 is adequate. It's not great, but it's adequate. Pro number 3 is that once again you can tell that this show did get a bit of a bigger budget because of a lot more monsters being shown on screen, a lot more effects shots, and a lot more action and a lot more cameras being attributed to this season. There's a lot more points of view. There's a lot more gore, which I like. I'll get to that in just a minute. But actually, no, yeah. There's more gore in the show as well, which I do like. But the bigger budget definitely does help the show be a lot more cinematic and a lot more entertaining, and that adds into the effects and the scares. But I like that this show clearly, once again, did get a bigger budget. This leads me, pro number 4 is the scares in this show are stellar. There were a few episodes of this season I was terrified. Zombies specifically, I was really gullible I get back then, I guess, but the zombies episode did convince me for a few days that zombies did actually still exist. And I was afraid to go to bed that night after watching the zombies episode. I am not gonna lie. I remember watching that episode like it was yesterday. I was totally hooked, and I was totally buying into the sense that, oh my God, zombies are actually real. So I don't know if you can say that's a good thing on the show, or if you can just say that's a bad thing for me and saying I'm just a gullible idiot. But whatever. But the scares are a lot better. There's a lot more jump scares. There's a lot more suspense. That's another pro that I have, is that there's really good suspense. There's a lot of moments where they just build tension and build tension and build tension until it literally explodes with the jump scare. And then there's the thrilling chase scenes where people are being chased by monsters, like in Devil Monkey and in Yeti and in Kraken, where people are being attacked by the Kraken. That suspense is really good. And the scares are really good. It gets your blood pumping and it gets your heart going, and it just scares the fuck out of you, like it did for me for a lot of this show, or especially a lot of this season. So that's really good. Yeah. Let's see. Pro number 6. I'm just blasting through these pros. Pro number 6 is the special effects. Now, there's one element of the special effects that's bad, but the practical effects, I think, are pretty decent for what this show is. And this ties into another pro that I have. There's more shots of the monsters. Pro number 7 is there's more shots of the monsters. You see the monsters a lot more often in this season, which once again is a big step up from season 1. It's even better than season 2. You see quite a bit of a lot of the monsters. You see a murky outline of the Kraken. You also see the Kraken's big eye. You see the zombies in full view for quick shots. You see their arms and such. You see I think the least amount of the monsters that you see in this season is of Q the Serpent God. Like, you only see a couple shots of an animatronic reptilian bird monster for like a fraction of a second, and a shitty CG model in darkness. And you also don't see very much of the Wendigo, and you don't see very much of, you see barely any of the Poltergeist, but that makes sense because it's a ghost. And you see barely any of, let's see, there's one more that, you see quite a bit of the Strigoi vampire, and you barely see anything of Q the Serpent God and the Beast of Bray Road. You barely see the Beast of Bray Road. There's a couple shots where you can see the costume of a werewolf costume, like in the corner of the screen, or it's heavily obscured by somebody, or the tree line. But yeah, you see a lot more shots of the monsters, which I really do like. And the effects that they use to pull them off are pretty well. A lot of guys, it's guys in costumes. Like Devil Monkey, it's clearly guys in costumes. Yeti, I think it's an animatronic, which looks really good, in my opinion. There's a lot more gore. The dismembered body parts look very convincing. There's one scene, and this is the only effect shot in Zombies that's kind of crap, where they see a human head, and it's very obvious. It's just like a rubber cast of a head that they bought at a Spirit Halloween store. But it's fine. And in my opinion, the practical special effects that they use to portray the monsters and the gore, there's a lot more blood in this season as well, which I really do like. Overall, yeah, the special effects are pretty solid, and I like that you see a lot more shots of the monsters. There's none of that Gareth Edwards Godzilla cock teasing here whatsoever, at least in terms of lost tape standards, in my opinion. Now, do I have any cons with season 3? I have 3. Garbage CGI is con number 1. There is a little bit more CG than in season 1. And I don't believe there was any at all in season 2, but there's a little bit more CG, and it looks pretty bad. Q the Serpent God looks like garbage. The CG used for the Kraken looks like shit. I think there's a little bit of CG in Reptilian, if I can remember correctly. There's bad CG there. There's one shot where in the Beast of Bray Road, somebody is attacked by the werewolf and his arm gets torn off, which, by the way, it's a black and white camera, but when the arm hits the camera, there's red blood that you can see. But it's digitally added on, and it looks so bad and it looks so fake. It just takes you out of the episode. Like I said, the CG. Hang on. Yeah, the CG model that they had of the full body of Q, the Serpent God, looks really, really, really bad. You only see it in the darkness, which maybe that was them trying to hide how bad it looked. But still, it looks really, really shitty. And they reuse a lot of Jurassic Park Velociraptor sound effects for the thing, too. That's, I believe, all the CG they used in the show. But yeah, it looks so bad. All of the CG they use in this show is just total crap. And it looks even worse than something like the Asylum would put out. Con number 3 is, while I love the monsters that they use in this show, I can agree with the criticism that there is a lot less realism in this show. They weren't even trying in some episodes to try to convey the fact that this is 100% real footage. The closest I think they come to is with Wendigo, because that's a real life legend. And this type of thing has happened before, where people have been lost in the woods and people have been cannibalized. But the sense of realism is almost completely gone, except in Wendigo and Yeti and Devil Monkey. It's almost completely gone. It just feels like episodes of a horror show at this point that's not even trying to be real. Well, again, it makes for more entertaining cinema. It doesn't make for it doesn't really stay consistent with the show trying to be conveyed as real. It just comes off as being totally fake, which kind of betrays the Lost Tapes formula, in my opinion. And con number 3 is the Enigma Corporation and the recurring East Mooney and what's his name? Agent Connor. Now, actually, I should go back on that by saying the Enigma Corporation I don't mind, but it's the recurring 2 agents that I have an issue with, because there's no explanation as to how they managed to escape. My wife just got home. How they managed to escape the vampire, the zombies, and Q, the Serpent God. They mention absolutely nothing of each of these incidences. Just like they're dropped into random incidents and they're told you can't mention anything about what you've seen in each mission. They don't explain why it's these 2 in every single case. If they wanted to include the Enigma Corporation in each episode that it's mentioned, you got to have 2 different agents every single time. Because if you have the same 2, it just raises so many questions that the show does not answer, and it's kind of frustrating. I actually think this might be the biggest problem with season 3, because this also once again makes season 3 feel so different from the first 2, is having a recurring aspect to the show. It doesn't really make it feel like an anthology series anymore. It just makes it feel like something else that's not Lost Tapes, which is kind of frustrating. But overall, I guess I just didn't really have that much to say about season 3. Season 3 of Lost Tapes, I still think, have I seen Q the Winged Serpent from 1981? No, I have not. I've heard of the film and I've seen a few reviews of Q the Winged Serpent, but nah, I'm probably not ever going to go see it. But overall, season 3 of Lost Tapes, it's a good ending to a great show. It's got some problems, though, and easily the final episode, Reptilian, is one of my least favorites of the entire series. Yeah, I just think it's utter garbage, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth whenever I watch that episode, because it's such a garbage episode to end on. So with all that being said, I will be giving season 3 an 8.5 out of 10. I don't remember what I rated seasons 1 and 2. I think they were at least all 3 were an 8. And overall, this ends my reviews of. Well, Justin, go watch the opening of this video. I can't give you an answer on which season was my favorite, because they all have aspects that balance them out equally. I will, however, 8.5 out of 10. It's a great season to a great show, And if you want to binge watch all 34 episodes, season 3 definitely does make a nice send-off and a nice progression feel to making the show end on a big bang. I will also be giving you very quickly my top 10 favorite episodes of Lost Tapes. I would have thought about making this episode or this its own video, but I don't really have that much to say other than I just love these 10 episodes. Number 10 is Wendigo. Has the highest body count in a single episode of the entire series, not counting the werewolf episode from season 2. It has the highest on-screen kill count. Number 9 is Kraken. This one really intrigued me, and I love seeing the Kraken's eye at the very ending. At the very end, it's definitely a great way to end the episode. Number 8 is Dover Demon, a creepy, mean-spirited episode that leaves you on a downer feeling to the end of a great season. Number 7 is Alien, very creepy, very spooky, and kind of makes you think, do aliens really live among us, amongst the animal kingdom? Well, that counts as off-screen deaths, so that's kind of debatable. Number 6 is Vampire from season 2. Strigoi Vampire is a good one too, but season 2's Vampire just definitely feels like a monster on the run or a haunted house monster on the run type thing, and I've always liked that more than going to an isolated area and there just so happens to be a vampire there. That sounds like a movie, but it sounds like a good movie, but the season 2 Vampire episode is a lot scarier and a lot more suspenseful in my opinion. Number 5, zombies. Need I say more? Anything that has zombies in it, I'm game. Number 4 is Bigfoot. My least favorite of the mammalian ape episodes, but it's still a really good one, and it's the only one of the entire series where the title cryptid is not the bad guy. Number 3 is Southern Sasquatch. It definitely also a very mean-spirited episode that's got great suspense and great kills and leaves you on a downer note thinking, I'm not going into the forest ever again. Are you ordering food? Okay. Number 2, Devil Monkey. Definitely, in my opinion, probably the most underrated episode of the entire series. An interesting type monster, and is one of the few monsters not few, but one of the monsters in this show that I definitely believe in very, very, very highly. I do believe there might be a species of nasty ass like super chimps in the Appalachian mountains. Maybe that's the inspiration for the lurkers in the movie The Descent. And my favorite episode of the whole show is Yeti. I love the concept of having a giant Bigfoot monster on the loose in a giant ship. Like, where the fuck are you going to go? There's only so many places you can hide on a giant ship. Eventually, the fucker will find you. So, yeah, those are my top 10 episodes of favorite episodes of Lost Tapes. Finally, after 3 years, this show has finally been completely reviewed. So I hope you're happy, and I hope that this season 3 review is as successful as the first 2. So post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, and share this video with your friends. Look forward to finally some new content with new franchises and new... You're distracting, and you're also stoned. Look forward to new content coming to this channel. And I'm not going to give any hints, but I'll say it's horror. Because, all of September is just a prelude to October. Let's be honest. Who gives a shit about Labor Day? And with all that said, I will see you guys in the next video.